Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Homeowners insurance increasing or deductible too high? Call, click, or come in. Save it, Dave. Dave Miette Insurance Agency.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher, live from our Pontchartrain Production Studios, and of course, a great day to be able to talk a little bit about what's happening here in the sports world. Here in the New Orleans area, Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, all on tap today. And of course, a guy that you're always asking me for to bring him on as a guest. He's back. Mike Detillier of WWL Radio is our guest today. Mike, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Eric.
Always good to have
I'm glad you give me that raise every time you come here. You raise the stool up where I'll sit just a little higher.
You noticed that this time.
Yeah, I noticed that. So I did get my raise this time, but I appreciate it. Always my pleasure.
We love having you, and again, of course, the audience loves it as well. Of course, WWL Radio, you guys are getting ready for, obviously, Saints, everything else that's going on. LSU carrying that as well. So again, we're just a few weeks away now.
Yeah, and I think everybody's getting a little itchy, because preseason's the biggest mirage in the world. But it is what it is. You get to see some individual play, and for the first time, in 20 years, we're getting to see LSU practice. But Brian's just letting you see what he wants you to see.
Right. A little tease.
Yeah, a little bit of a tease, and he's building up a little bit of goodwill with everybody until he shoves the Iron Curtain down and everybody, what happened?
Right.
Well, it's just, you understand first-year coach and everything else, and he's going to do it his way.
Right.
And it's already established.
Yes. Yeah, we know that.
Very much.
Let's start with Saints, and this year, again, going into this weekend with Green Bay, the joint practices, but what did you take away from Houston? Anybody stick out to you in the Houston game?
Man, if he can stay healthy, and I know I've said this before on here, Chase Hansen.
Right.
And he's a guy I saw at Utah. I first saw him, he was a safety.
Right.
He was a quarterback, wide receiver in high school, went to safety, and then from safety to linebacker. And his injury list is about as thick as War and Peace, the novel, the Russian version.
Right.
Not the one we read. It's pretty thick. And he had a hip injury, rehabbed in Utah, and then they just signed him. And he's a playmaker, and he gets it here.
Right.
Between the ears, great instincts, but can he stay healthy?
That's been the issue.
And that's a health issue with him. So he impressed me in that he's a playmaker. Eric Wilson, also at linebacker, because of the fact that if you look at the interception, he was the one who really caused it.
Yes.
He caused the interception. He's active. I see it in practice. He's good in the coverage part of the game. I can't tell you what happened a year ago in Minnesota, but the year before, this is a guy over 100 tackles. So he's been productive as an NFL player. Maybe it's the right fit for him, but I thought he stood out. I think the biggest surprise of camp for me, because I didn't know. You got a guy who's missed 2 full seasons and he comes back, Justin Evans.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw him at Texas A&M, you know, and he was a good player there, really good in coverage, deep coverage, and his ability to get from A to B is so fast.
Yeah.
He was never great in run support. He was okay, but he's physically gotten bigger. I didn't know 2 years out of the game because of injuries.
Yeah.
You wonder, can he come back from that? He played like he practiced.
Okay.
He's all over the field.
Right.
And so for the thickest unit on the field in the secondary,
Yeah, no doubt.
he really stood out to me. I'm glad to see Will Lutz back at form. We didn't see him, but man, in practice, Michael Thomas looks like 2019 Michael Thomas. On offense, all the running backs ran hard. I didn't like the fumble with Abram, but I liked the way he ran. He's got good vision, he can catch the ball. But you can't lay the ball on the turf. Can't do it. And my guy from the Bayou, man, Dejon Dixon, you know, and
He looks like a pro, doesn't he? I mean,
I told him this. We do interviews after they bring 4 or 5 people to the podium every day, and then we get to interview one of them one-on-one. And he's heard the story. First game I ever saw him at Nichols. I'm on the sidelines, me and Tim Rebo's brother. And he's, man, who's the big guy playing receiver? And I mean, you know, for a while I thought maybe Rebo, you know, he had dressed Marcus Colston out, you know, and was going to try to hide it. And he's sort of built like Marcus. He's a big, tall, lanky receiver, great build, tremendous eye-hand coordination. But he's the most supremely confident player I've seen from Nichols since Ladarius Webb. Now, Ladarius played 9 years in the NFL. But, you know, he's confident. You know, he thinks he's going to beat you every time he gets on the field, and you know what? He does. At Nichols, he never got single coverage. It was bracket or it was double team. You know, now he gets to go one-on-one. He knows how to use his size well, sure-handed, tough guy, and he's got a kick. Once he catches it, you better grab him fast. So those were the guys to me that really sort of stood out individually. And you don't get a lot from preseason, again, but those individual situations you can see. I think you got much more out of this week with the practices against Green Bay, because you know what? You looked in the mirror image of a defense that looked just like you. Just like you did. And man, they have spent early draft choices, spent a lot of money on building up the defense. The one area they look like the Saints a year ago, wide receiver. And you hear it from Aaron, hey, wait a minute. This Davante Adams, you know, he was unbelievable. And, you know, you got fans. The same thing last year when Michael Thomas didn't play. Man, anybody can take his place. You know what? You and I saw anybody play. He ain't too good. So Green Bay is finding out what the Saints found out a year ago. Michael Thomas, special player. Davante Adams, special player.
And can't go into a season like that. Saints proved it last year, and it really hurt them. With having the type of receivers that they had in that room, and of course that's a real big upgrade. Which leads me to Dixon and also Kurt Merrick, two local guys on the bubble here. Do you think they make the practice squad? Do you think they make the final 53? Obviously, again, you're looking at Callaway and Smith. Maybe again the last 2 on the depth chart when you're looking at the top 6. What are your thoughts?
I think one of them does.
You think one of them will make it?
I think one of them will.
And
now Kurt's got more experience,
right?
Because he was 2 years in Miami. And man, I saw Kurt when he was at Destrehan. And he was sort of a wingback. He played running back, wide receiver. They put him in a slot. I mean, he could do it all. You know, and he had a kind of bounce around college career in the last 2 years at Arkansas State where he was a really good player. And he got an opportunity. And he's a very confident player, too. And he can help you in a lot of different ways. I'm never worried about having too much. You know, it's a Hank Stram line. I stole it from Hank. He's like, oh, Bayou. And I'm never worried about having too much. I'm always worried about not having enough. Well, okay, last year you could have said that at the receiver unit. This year, I think one of them will make it and the other one will be on the practice squad. But I think preseason and the next 2 weeks will determine which one and which one can help you the most on special teams.
Which is the key now.
That's
if you're not going
the
to be
key.
one of the top guys.
Yeah, and that job as a gunner opposite JT Gray is still open. Now, I know PJ can do that, but I've watched Kirk. I've watched Alante Taylor, who's a really good player too, and has done that at the collegiate level, and Dejan. Now, Dejan always told me, I want to play special teams, but Tim don't want me to play it. I get it. No, if I'm at Nichols, no, you're not playing those special teams. You might play on the hands unit, but that's the only special teams you playing on. So I think that'll determine it. But the two units, to me, that jump out in watching practice, as advertised, secondary.
Right.
Okay. It's the best secondary in Saints history, and there is no debate.
That is starters and depth, right?
Starters and depth.
Right.
Marshawn Lattimore is the best cornerback that's ever put on the black and gold uniform. That's not even okay. You can throw a couple names out, but come on, he's the best of the best.
Right.
Opposite him is a guy who may be vying to be the best too. Paulson Adebo, if you were to put on a Mount Rushmore of practice sessions, he's on it. Paulson has really come along a long way. Another long, lean corner. And what I liked about him last year, they picked on him. It didn't break him, okay? And it's the old Ed Reed line.
Yeah.
They want to mentally break you. And then you physically make mistakes. They're going to pick on you. Don't show me your credentials. They don't care about it. Go make plays.
Right.
He's made a ton of them in camp. I mean, here's the craziest part. You watch the Texans game, they keep throwing the football in his direction.
Right.
My thing is, okay, who's the knucklehead making these calls? And I get it, it's just preseason, but hey, you know what? I want to make my receiver and my quarterback look good. I'm throwing the ball on the other side. And Lattimore's not playing, so I'm throwing it on that end.
Yeah, what are you doing in the regular season now?
Yeah, you're in trouble.
Right.
So you see a guy that, to me, has all-pro skills. Bradley Roby's your 3. This is a guy who's been a starter in this league and a good slot corner. And so when has the Saints ever had 3 guys like that on this roster? At corner? Never. Never. And then you got a young man, he's a stallion, and that's Alante Taylor. I'm just telling you, a lot of people, oh my God, they picked him?
Well, everybody was when you look at where he was projected and where he went. Come on.
But he is as billed.
Right.
And I told you the story. I asked Coach Allen, who has surprised you in the OTAs? His first name was Alante Taylor.
Right.
And Carl Granderson was the second one. He's looked good also.
Yeah, right.
But, okay, so you got another guy, another long, lean corner, great speed.
You haven't even mentioned Gardner Johnson yet.
No, but the fact that he's so physical and his ability to ease so quickly toward a receiver, you don't see a lot of rookies do that. Some hesitation sometimes. Man, am I making a mistake? Now, he's confident in that. So you got 4 guys. I throw in P.J. Williams, who really is now more of a nickel and a dime safety. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You can make the argument, and I know he wants to get paid to be the top guy, and eventually I think he'll get paid by somebody if it's not the Saints. He's arguably the best sort of nickel hybrid corner safety in the league. You can make that strong argument.
I agree.
That he is that. Okay, we haven't even talked about the safeties yet. But those corners. So then, you lose Malcolm, who was such a heady player, really smart, and he got everybody in the right spot. Man, Marcus was a really good player in this team. Really was, Marcus Williams. And he got so much better from year 1 to the final year in run support. He wasn't great in that early on, but he became a good player. So you replace him with Tyrann Mathieu, who plays all over the board, and Marcus May, who's a guy that can play either free or strong, so you're interchangeable there. The biggest surprise in camp is Justin Evans. And if he can stay healthy, he's going to make this 53-man roster.
Center field for you.
And so, okay, you cannot look at other Saints teams and compare and put all of that talent together as advertised, and they have played up to that particular point.
Let me ask you about Alante Taylor. Is he insurance in case they can't get a deal done with Gardner Johnson?
I would think that's a big part of it. And also, too, the game has changed. You just can't have. He's also insurance for next year when Bradley Roby becomes a free agent.
Right.
So now you kind of have a little bit of the nest egg guy,
right.
just in case something happens. But we all know you can't play in this league with 3 corners.
No.
Because if somebody goes down, you're down to 2. Who becomes your third guy?
Right.
Man, I'm going after that guy. So the luxury of that talent we have never seen on a Saints football team. We have had people call it, oh, man, what about the Dome Patrol? And Bobby always says the Dome Patrol made the defensive backs look good. Come on, it's not the other way around.
No, they had okay secondary.
Yeah, Johnny Poe, Dave Waymer, and Gene Atkins.
Right, Gene was good.
And Gene was good, but you look at this group,
Oh, this is.
it's special. So that jumps out at me. The talent and the depth along the defensive line, I think we knew because we saw most of it last year, but Peyton Turner only played 5 games. In practice, when he's healthy, yow. You know, you can see his pass rush skills, especially when they kick him inside. He's out athletic, those guys, use those long arms. And so we joked with him in the one-on-one about, you know, I know how Ryan Nielsen is. He's, use your length, beat the guy with your length. He said, I hear it every day and sometimes 2-3 times. You know, Ryan preaches that. I've been to enough camps with Ryan. Granderson looks like the real McCoy. He looks it. And he told us when he came out of high school, he was 175 pounds.
Wow, really?
That's how he went from California to Wyoming. 175-pound defensive end. He's 285 pounds today.
Right.
So he says, you know, I don't know if I can hold 285, but if you can hold that 275, 280, that to me is
better every year.
Every year. And now he's not maybe a negative in run support. And I think they question that. Now, he never did, but I think maybe the coaches, maybe he's a little light, they're going to run it at him. Cam Jordan is who Cam is. But the key guy is Davenport.
You heard what Dennis said about him the other day. Do you agree that he's the best player on that defense?
I think he is. I think when he is healthy, he is. Pete Jenkins told me this, Mike, I've worked over 50 years and he worked with Marcus. He said, I've never seen a guy that can convert power to speed that fast. And he said, you know, when you're talking about a lengthy guy like he is, he said, sometimes it takes a step and a step and a half. He said, don't take him. As soon as he puts that foot in the ground, power, speed, pow. And then we did a couple of breakdown segments for NFL Films. Greg Cosella and I were doing a show. And one play against Atlanta, the tackle got a little too high on him, and he forklifted right back into Matt Ryan's lap. And you can see Ryan kind of catches him falling at the corner of his eye, and he's backing up fast. And Davenport's beating down on him. 2 plays later, he does the exact same thing. And it's like, wow. Now, again, health has to play the part with him. But, man, to see that, that's a rarity in this league. Now, he's got to stay healthy.
Right. That's been the key. It's a contract year for him.
Yeah.
So, and that might be one of those guys that even if he's not healthy, you might have to hold on to him simply because of, you know, the investments you've made, but also still that upside.
Yeah. I've never seen a guy, now I saw it as a kid. Right. A guy who's that lengthy that could turn power into speed in a Saints uniform. Doug Atkins was the one guy, because Doug could do it. Yeah. And Doug was doing it at 37, 38, 39 years old.
Last 3 years in the league here.
Can you imagine? I didn't see Doug in his 20s, other than film.
Film, right.
But he's got that type power built up into him. And now he's become a better technician. And at times he just mauls people at the point of attack. And so, man, if he's healthy and you got those guys, and Onyemata missing the first 6 games, I think really hurt him.
Bad.
It took him a little while. Football's not a light switch. You can flick on and off. And it took him a couple games, and now you got him there, and the battle now of who would be the other guy. Is it going to be Shai Tuttle? Is it going to be Contavious Street, who I think has had a good camp here? I think he really, really has. Malcolm Roach, at times, he's really looked good also. They got some talent up front along their defensive line, and then certainly at wide receiver.
Yeah.
It's a totally different look from a year ago because the top 3 guys, they weren't here a year ago.
No. Let me ask you about linebacker, because there's a little bit of a revolving door there now. They decided not to go after Quan Alexander. They brought in Bostic now, who's a 10-year vet. You mentioned Chase Hansen. It's been a little bit of a revolving door back there with, again, Pete Werner injured. They say Caden Ellis is playing much better. What are your thoughts on the linebacker? Because obviously, again, if you keep your top 2 healthy, you're going to be fine. But it's hard to keep. Werner's had a history of injuries. So what's going on behind him is really the big question.
Big question mark is, okay, he comes into camp and he's fighting a groin injury.
Right.
He comes back, practices a little bit, he's back on the sidelines. Eric, the red flag went up for me. As soon as I didn't see him out there, because I do know one thing with a groin injury. You pull it and mess with it, it's going to stay with you. It stay with you for the rest of the year.
Right.
Can you play with it? Do you have the surgery and get it over with? And then you're going to miss time. So that's the big question mark. And Pete is such a smart guy. I mean, he's instinctive.
Yeah, sure.
He can drop back in coverage well. He looks like a safety. You know, you look at him and say, man, that guy's playing linebacker. But that's the way the world is today.
That's right.
You better have people that can match up. I want a 250-pound thumper. Yeah, and watch that tight end and that running back run right past that 250-pound thumper. So that is, if there's a question mark on defense, that's where it's at.
Why didn't they sign Quan? I mean, again, it was $152,000 for signing bonus. I think it was 1.2 to 1.5. I think it's 1.2 is what he ended up getting as a salary with the Jets. Just, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, that is a coaching decision. That's not a financial decision.
No, it's not.
The money's there.
It was nothing. It was a $152,000 investment.
I think for them, they felt Pete's the guy.
Right.
Pete's our starter, and Pete's going to be our starter. Okay? But what you did kind of messed a little bit with depth. Now, the flip of that is Quan's always hurt too.
No, it's true.
So, you sort of think about that a little bit, that he's always had it. I'm interested in Bostic because until he tore the pectoral muscle, he had been a full-time starter for Washington. And can he come in here and give you that quality depth? He's mostly played inside. But, the way the game is played today, it's not, that it's almost interchangeable.
How about Ellis? We keep hearing good things about him. You've seen all the practices.
Yeah. He's, I always thought he was a much better guy, run support. And they asked him to do this a lot in college, was rush the quarterback. They didn't ask him to drop back in coverage. He's gotten better with that. He's more fluid. You can see with his footwork in reverse, he's better with it. And when they're going to go to base, which you're not going to see much, he would be your third guy. He would be your third guy. I think maybe they thought Dow would be the guy, maybe to take a little bigger presence. But you signing Kiko Alonso and Bostic, you see what they're telling you is we don't see it yet.
Plus, they can go nickel and dime. They are so stacked on the back end, they can utilize those defensive backs if necessary.
My thing is you put Alante in one spot and you let Chauncey go, you let C.D. Deuce kind of fill that other role.
Flow. So let's just go offense. And everybody wants to know about the tackle position. Yesterday, James Hurst injured his foot. We don't know the extent of that injury yet. Obviously, Penning had a hot and cold start against Houston. Looked really good against the run. Really struggled against the pass. Talk a bit about him.
He played like he practiced. I go to the little corner, I watch him.
You watch him.
Every day I watch the lineman. I get the assignment from Mayberry. He's like, I can't watch everything, Mike. You got to go to the corner and watch. Okay, I get it. And so I go watch in the corner, I watch the lineman work out. He played exactly like he practiced. And that you can see he's a dominant run blocker. He works hard, he's smart. He's a huge man. And when he hits you with that punch, he's gonna pop you. His pass protection skills, where he messes up, he's playing too fast. In essence, he's still thinking about what he's got to do instead of just doing it. When he's got his techniques right and he can get his hands out and control you, good. But we saw 3 or 4 plays. One, he didn't get his hands out quick enough and he got pushed back right into the lap of the quarterback. They set him up on one move, and that's what I would do if I was having to go against him. They gave him 2 outside moves, and then they clipped one inside, and so he's setting up wide. That veteran sees that, set up wide, cut in, his foot movement skills. So he's playing too fast, and he's lunging out, okay? He's not on balance. That'll come in time. But if I got to play tomorrow, or if I got to play in September, James Hurst is my starter.
Right. That's why it's critical, again, that he comes back from that injury, and hopefully it's not going to be too severe. How do you like the rest of the offensive line?
It's the biggest question mark on this team.
I agree.
It is the one, and I've said this for months, is the one element I can't tell you today how good they play as a unit. And as we go through this show and we talk about Tulane and LSU and the Saints, the one common denominator, they all got offensive line issues.
That's right.
Every one of them. And so I think Eric McCoy is a hell of a center, and I think he was trying to help the 2 guards last year, which didn't do him, a lot of favors.
Right. Caesar coming off an injury.
Yeah, and Cesar Ruiz, he's better, but do I look at him as a Ben Grubbs type player even? I'm not even talking about Jari Evans. I'm talking about a Ben Grubbs type guy. I don't see that.
Right.
Andrus can play. Can he stay healthy?
That's the thing.
And Ramczyk is almost bubble wrap. Because I passed by Zach the other day, and I told him, I said, hey, is Ramczyk getting his reps in today? He gets 1 or 2 reps, and okay.
Right.
I got it. Yeah, I don't need to see him.
No, come on.
Landon Young, who's a young kid, he played under a weird pass protection situation at Kentucky where it was a clap. Right. That's how you set up.
Right.
What? I've heard it in high school, but never in the college level. And
all SEC.
He's an all SEC, and he is a big man, and he's physical. Now, again, similar to Trevor, when he gets beat, it's because he doesn't get his hands out quick enough. And it's a speed standpoint. His foot speed is there, but can you get your hands and steer? Because that's what you're doing on the outside. Right. In pass protection, you're not mauling the guy. You just want to take him out of the play.
Right.
That's the way the game is today. And so it's going to be intriguing how that works out. And I really can't tell you anything more than I know how good McCoy and Ramczyk are.
Right.
Other than that,
question mark.
It's question mark because of an injury. And Hurst, I think, is a good player. He's not a dominant guy.
No.
And so,
but he's serviceable, right?
He's more than serviceable as a starter.
You can put him out there to left tackle and you feel comfortable.
And you feel pretty good with it.
Right.
And he knows all the tricks of the trade. Because I watch him with his hands. Man, he catches those defensive ends sometimes. Because, man, you watch them in practice, those defensive ends, man, when they coming, and they all look the same. I don't care if it's Passano, if it's Peyton Turner, Granderson, he's like a big condor, okay? He's like 6'5", but he's got an 84-inch wingspan. Okay, when he gets around you, good luck. You try to catch that guy. And Cam is who he is. I mean, he's still one of the elite players in this league because he plays the run so well, and he's also and I see this with pass rushers. They get sacks, but it's in bundles. Okay, he may go a couple games, not get it, and then all of a sudden, he gets 7 in 2 games. And you say, wow, what happened? Well, that's just how pass rushers are.
Plus, it helps to have the other guy on the side helping him out.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is if I'm playing the Saints, the one guy I don't want messing with me is Cam. So my pass protection sets are to make sure he doesn't become the guy. So that means, Marcus, you got to beat your guy.
Every time.
Granderson, you got to beat your guy.
You're one-on-one.
Anyamata, you got to beat your guy. If it's Tuttle, Street, whoever, Roach, you got to beat your guy one-on-one. But, yeah, it's interesting, but I think it is the biggest question. People say always about Jameis. No, Jameis is going to be okay. I'm not worried about Jameis.
Protection.
Yeah, it's all about you got to run the ball too. It was an issue last year with LSU.
Right.
It was an issue last year with Tulane.
Sure.
They couldn't run the ball consistently. Early in the season, LSU couldn't run the ball at all. And all of a sudden, you know, it started to gel.
Yeah.
Last year, the Saints averaged 3.75 a rush, 28th in the league.
Right.
Come on, that can't happen this year. The good Saints teams and the better ones have always been teams that could run the ball. Sean would always point it out. Now, he'd get mad with me when I talk about that 30 carries or more, because he said, well, just give him the ball 30 times. It's not what I'm talking about. If you can run the ball early in the game, man, that carries through. We all know offensive linemen, they love to run block.
Course.
That they love to do. Man, I'm gonna take you out up front. And so I think it's an element that was not there last year on this football team. Again, when we're going to look back at 2021, other than 2006, it may have been the best coaching job Sean Payton ever did with 4 quarterbacks.
Right.
All those offensive linemen. 4 starters missed 32 games. No Michael Thomas.
Right. Kamara.
Kamara, I'm missing some time. You had people in the secondary down. Peyton Turner, your first-round pick, played 5 games. Onyemata, the first 6 games suspended. And you played with a rookie corner, and you won 9 games, and Will Lutz didn't kick one kick.
That's right. There's no doubt. Mike, I got to take a break here because we're a little bit behind, but I want to come back, and I want to stay with the Saints for a few more minutes, and then we'll jump to LSU, Tulane, and then Pels. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Mike Detillier of WWL Radio is our guest. I'm your host, Derek Asher. Stay tuned.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Experiencing rough weather with a bad roof can be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be.
Suburban Roofing, because when it comes to roofing, there is a difference.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Derek Asher. Mike Detillier of WWL Radio is our guest. Mike, I want to ask you about the offensive line since you've been keen on that. You've been involved in all these line camps for years and years and years. How much of a difference can a Doug Marrone make? Can a Jari Evans make, and a Zach Strief, 2 guys that played the game at a high level? And Marrone's considered one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL with this line, specifically when you talk about a guy like Cesar Ruiz, again, young players like Landon Young and also Penning.
It's a technique standpoint, because I see it in all the line camps that I work. It's all about technique. You have your technique right. Coming out of college, those college offensive line coaches, they all teaching something a little different. In the NFL, okay, you got to learn, and you need reps. The one thing about these limited practices, no two-a-days, the OTAs are limited.
Yeah.
You do not get them, okay? And hitting, okay, that would be like me telling you, Eric, I'm going to teach you how to swing a golf club, okay? You and I go out on the range, but I tell you, Eric, only do it 50%. So when you raise that club back, when you come back, cut your swing down 50%, because that's what they're telling them in practice. Okay? You hit that ball when you really got to.
Right.
Okay? It's in your head now.
Sure it is.
And so it's a technical standpoint, but that's the equation of me telling you, wait, you can't swing hard. You got to come halfway. It's not like it used to be. And they're trying to protect the players to play 17 games. I get it. The one area it really hurts, line play.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Plus, again, you're not hardening your body. That's another reason why we see all these soft tissue injuries early in the season. Guys, they just not used to be 2-a-days. Your body was hard by the time you got to the regular season. You're not getting that anymore.
Yeah, well, I never forget Jimmy Taylor telling me this years ago. He said, man, we went to camp to get in shape.
Right.
Because we had to have another job.
Sure.
We wasn't making enough money in the NFL.
True.
But now you're making enough money to get you a trainer, get yourself in shape, so you're ready to roll when you hit there. It's not about conditioning.
Right.
It's about playing. But the rules to keep you from getting maybe banged up in practice, the head injuries, we see the little skull caps, all this other stuff. I know Stan Brock used to talk about it all the time about, man, you know, you never felt good after the first day because you were banging helmets. That's all changed. But what it's done is taken away the reps, the real reps. Away from offensive and defensive linemen.
We'll talk about quarterback for a couple minutes before we move on to the collegiate game. A lot of Saints fans on social media this week. You know, Andy Dalton over Jameis. It's Jameis's job to lose. Jameis's job at this point. We hope that the injury is not going to be too severe for him. But as I put out on social media and talked about on the radio show, man, look, you're in great shape right now. If it's Jameis's team, but if Jameis, if he falters, if he struggles, or if he's injured, you got to feel pretty good about going to Andy Dalton, who's won a lot of games in this league.
Yeah, he knows what to do and how to do it.
Right.
And where he's so accurate, and you watch him in practice, short and immediate part of the field. He
Which
does
is like
that
Breeze, right?
Very
that was
much
the offense.
So. Now, if he threw 10 deep passes, he maybe completes 1 or 2. If Jameis throws it, then he's 7 or 8.
Oh, yeah.
Because Jameis, that's his forte.
True.
But you can see that he's smart. He still has the arm, the accuracy skills, but he processes it so quickly. And that, to me, he still has that ability. And so, yeah, if you needed him for a 2-game stretch or a 3-game stretch, he's available, and he'll do a very good job for you. The one guy I've seen very little improvement in is Ian Book. I mean, he looks like the guy I saw a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, he's erratic throwing the football. His ball placement is off. And we saw it Saturday night. He's got a wide open Jawan Johnson over the middle, and he highballs one to him over the top. And it's where he wants to go with the ball. At times, I think he's still sort of processing, should I get the little short pass or should I maybe go downfield? Come on, you got to know at this stage of where to go with the football. And this is what preseason's about.
Oh, I agree.
That you got to find out, because come regular season, those veterans that are maybe 3 quarters in preseason, man, you know, practice is for the unskilled. No, they're coming at you in the regular season.
Considering there is such great depth on the back end, wide receivers pretty deep right now. Is there a chance, and I've talked about it, maybe you move away from Ian Book. Maybe you go get another young quarterback that you have on your scout team, that's on your practice squad. Maybe, again, game day, you've got your 3rd quarterback, might be a Taysom Hill as an emergency quarterback, because at least at that point, you're opening up another roster spot for a guy that you know can play for you right now.
Yeah, we've talked about this for weeks now. Once we saw the first week of Ian Book, that hey, you may just go with 2.
Right.
You may just go with Jameis and Dalton and Taysom being your emergency quarterback. And you know, you're probably going to put Ian on your practice squad.
Right. Would you stay with him another year, or would you move on to
I think they'll probably stay with him another year.
Let's shift gears. Before I do this, Saints a playoff team? Double-digit win, double-digit win team?
You know, I picked 10 wins for them.
I agree.
I think they could maybe squeeze in 11.
Right. Me too.
November is going to be tough. Going to be tough. And this team historically, and you can't put that on Dennis, but historically has not gotten out of the blocks like Usain Bolt.
Right.
They've been a 500 football team in September. Where they've been really good is October, where they're winning 90% of their games. So what you got to flip a little bit this year is you got to come out with a hot start and look who you play early.
Right.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
You gotta take care of business early, because as November and December come around and the potential of cold weather games in December, November is the meat grinder month. And you can see it on, I mean, again, it's on paper, but still, I can tell a good football team from a team that's not real good either.
Let's talk about LSU. And, of course, the first question is, again, Miles Brennan moving on, leaving football, which leaves you with Daniels versus Nussmeier for the starting position. Walker Howard has got to be somewhat in the mix now because, let's face it, they want to redshirt him, but one of these guys goes down, he's number 2.
He's the guy.
He's number 2. Talk about the quarterback, I don't want to call it controversy, but again, the race to number 1.
And I know we've talked about it before, that something happened between Manning, because I do know one thing with Archie, he will always go to the head coach and say, hey, send me a starter. I don't want a quarterback controversy guy here. And he sent Miles to Manning. And so that was interesting, because I think that was Brian's first sort of tip. Maybe I'm going to lean toward Miles. But I always felt you didn't bring Miles, and then 5 weeks later you signed Jaden Daniels, who has been a starter at Arizona State, but you were happy with what you had? No, it didn't jive. Jaden, I think, is the starter at this point. I think there's no question. But I think he also has the most improved player on the team breathing right down his neck in Garrett Nussmeier. And Garrett sometimes, he doesn't like to hear it, but he is a gunslinger. He's a gunslinger quarterback. And that's nothing wrong with that. No. Brett Favre was. Come on. But I see it too, and even in some of the practice things that you get to see, is that he's got an open guy that's short. Man, I'm going to put the ball right there downfield a little bit more. It takes a chance. And he's always going to be that way. Always going to be that way. You can't break him from that. And Brett used to always say, man, you know, I had coaches, don't do this. He said, you know, it's just your instinct. That's where you want to go. You're going to take a chance. But, man, he's got a live arm, Nussmeier, and he throws the ball really well off the waggle, supremely confident. Jaden is a really tall, very thin-built guy, tremendous foot speed, and he got you on your heels. Because once he breaks out of the pocket, is he going to throw it or run it? And he can kind of cock that arm and say, you going up to try to, and he takes off. And he's got unbelievable speed. The thing with him is accuracy skills and touch. At times you see that's hot and cold with him, but he's never had a receiving core like what he got at LSU, which is really good. So I think Walker's the future. And what was funny, the Saturday, Manning, Archie invited the other quarterbacks just to come through that morning. And you had Walker Howard, and you had Jaden and Nussmeier, the guy that threw the football, and you heard it. You didn't see it. Was Walker. Man, it was coming out of there, and you saw those receivers. You know, these are guys from Nicholls State and Southeastern, some LSU, Tulane. They were like, "Whoa, who's the kid?" You know, and the kid can play. Well,
he just got a verbal commit from Ricky Collins too.
But you can see Walker is eventually going to be the guy.
And Kelly likes the mobile quarterback, so we'll see how that.
And I think that's why Jaden is going to get the shot. And okay, when you start that many games, people say, "Well, he can't play." He played in this Pac-12. It's the same malarkey I heard about Joe Burrow. Who did he play against in the Big Ten? Okay, Joe Burrow changed the world for LSU. Now I'm not trying to compare Jaden and Joe, but what I'm saying is, he started all those games because he was the best quarterback at Arizona State. They didn't give it to him. And I don't think Brian gave it to him. I think he earned that respect for him, and Brian likes.
I think you got to, though, right? I mean, coming out the box, you cannot show favoritism
to anyone.
Somebody said something the other day about NIL, and that there's NIL that have been invested in Daniels. That's why he's starting. And I'm saying to myself, you can take it over a program. You got to be fair, and you got to be, again, the best man has to win. If not, the team's going to see it. They know it.
Well, my thing with Brian Kelly, he didn't come here to be a politician, to kiss babies and shake hands.
Come on.
He came here to win games, and he knows it. He came on with us, and he was very, accommodating.
Yes.
The one time he sort of raised his voice was, I brought up the fact, hey, Vegas has got you guys not with a lot of respect. And he said, I didn't come here to win 7 games.
Right.
And he basically is telling you, I know why I'm here. I didn't come here to win those 7 games. And I think they could, it looks to me, they would be, because of their defensive line, which is really good, and their receiving core is outstanding.
Outstanding, right.
But, they look to me to be a 8-win team.
Yeah, I'm saying 8. They get 9 wins.
And they go to 9 wins, get in a bowl game and win. Man, now for some LSU fans, they spoil rotten. We won 11 wins in year 1.
Though.
Come on. You're not catching Alabama.
No.
You're not catching them.
No, at least not now. Offensive line, he's cross-training. They're still up in the air on that. That's huge. They've seen I keep hearing Mason Taylor's name at tight end.
He's the guy, huh? He's going to be the second freshman to start.
Right.
Because Will has won that left tackle position. Yes. But last year, I was surprised Mason committed to LSU because at that time, Max Johnson's brother, who was the number one rated tight end in America, he had committed to LSU. Mason commits. So, I talked to Coach, he's like, one thing about him, he's competitive. And he said, man, look at them genetics. His dad, Jason Taylor, who's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And he said, I'm just telling you, he is not going to sit long.
Right.
He said, I don't care where he's playing, here or somewhere else. And you see him, and you say, that guy's 18 years old. Yeah, he's 6'5" and a little change, 245 pounds. And you talk about a dude who can run.
Right.
But the thing Brian will love about him, he is competitive. That is something I can't teach you to be competitive. Either you are or you not. He is. Right. And he's not intimidated. Man, you're 22 years old. That don't mean nothing to me. I can beat you out on the field. Right. It's the same way with Will Campbell. Yeah, you might get me one time or two, but I'm going to show you I'm going to get you the rest. Right. And I think Mason Taylor is going to be a big difference maker. He's a huge target guy. And when you watch him catch it, the ball doesn't make a sound when he catches it. It's
right.
Okay. A lot of times when you hear that, he's fighting it a little bit. But when you don't hear it, man, that's smooth. Right. And I think he's the second freshman that'll start game 1 against Florida State if he doesn't get hurt.
I mean, that helps with that aerial game. I don't really ask you about the line, about the running. I'm sorry, the offensive line, because it's so much in flux right now, right? I mean, I don't think he's settled in on anybody, but maybe just can't. That's it at this point. Running back,
Anthony Bradford will start somewhere.
Somewhere, right.
Now, I don't know if it's right tackle, right guard, but he'll start somewhere.
Experimentation with Dellinger right now. Again, he's never really been a long snapper.
He's never been a center. And
that's why he's having issues right now, right?
Yeah, and listen, you can't mess it up. Do you snap 70 times in a game? They expect you to make 70 snaps.
And most times now in the NFL, in college football, you're in a shotgun.
Yeah, and so Brian tipped us off a little bit. A little over a month ago, and when I asked him about Garrett, and he's like, Mike, he's a really good prospect. We really like him. We're not sure where we're going to play him, but I want to take a look at him at center. When he said that, he told me exactly what his thoughts were, because he made it known that night, I want a big center. Right. So that told me Charles Turner.
Right.
God bless you, brother.
Right. Big and supposedly, again, smart enough to make all the calls. There's another thing he's talked about with him.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is when you're in these camps, they have all these defensive guys talking all the time. And their deal is, it's not so much pressure off the edge. Man, it's hard because those big linemen, they steer you out. You're out on the interstate. Right. But where we can get pressure is right up the middle, and I'll affect him because he can't step up in the launch pad to throw it. And if I got to move him back, then he's at my mercy at that point. Because if he runs left or right, then I got a guy coming off the edge that can squeeze him.
Right.
So that's the big change in the game today that I think you see more and more of interior pressure and how it's coming. Sometimes it's delayed a little bit. You'll have a linebacker start a pity pat, and then he shoots up the field, or a safety who will come right up to the line, drops back, and then he comes racing in. That center has got to pick that guy up. And so you make sure the snap's right, because that's number one priority. But then you got to pick up, okay, where are the blitzes coming from? So what I do to confuse the center, I cock that defensive tackle to your left or to your right. So when you get that snap, I'm staring and I'm looking one way or another. That guy's coming a different way, and then here comes the linebacker or the safety up the field.
When you look at running back, obviously at this point, Noah Cain is talked about. Everybody's waiting on John Emery. We'll see how that plays out.
No, I think that's a motivational thing. I think Brian wants John Emery to be the guy.
Who wouldn't want him?
But he has talked about this numerous times. Your practice habits. You being a leader. I want to see that. He got all over Jeray Jenkins and publicly
called him out,
not once but twice yesterday. After he had his best practice of the summer.
He said, I want you to be more of a leader.
Can you hear me?
Exactly.
Can you hear me? I'm telling you. And I want you to be consistent. And Jeray's talented.
Oh, no doubt.
And he's a big guy downfield. I think other than Keyshawn Butte, who he is, and Mason Smith at defensive tackle, who he is.
Yes.
And he's a superstar.
Oh, yes, no doubt.
I think the guy that has had the best practices has been Malik Neighbors.
Okay. Hands down.
Ends up story. He's the guy. And so his deal is, man, I love all that attention they're giving Keyshawn. And I've become the guy.
And Jenkins.
One-on-one. Okay, I ain't seeing no double coverage my way.
And then you throw Taylor in the mix now?
You throw Taylor in the mix, Besh getting back healthy, Hilton with his speed, Brian Thomas Jr., who has flashed it, but he's gotten under Brian's nerves a little bit too on certain things. Man, LSU's got some talent at wide receiver.
No doubt.
And they got a star who is always going to attract bracket coverage or double coverage. So that leaves Malik and Besh and all these other guys. What, one-on-one? Okay, for these guys coming out of high school, they've never seen that. They've always had two people covering them. All I got to do is beat my guy. And that also helps the running game. But if they can't run the ball, and that's been Brian's deal, I want to run it. And then once I establish it up front, then I can throw it. It's a question mark of that offensive line. How quickly five can gel as one? It's not individual play, because if you get one guy screw up, guess what? The play's busted.
Oh, yeah.
No matter how good you are. At left or right tackle, if the guard messes up or the center messes up, then guess what? And it didn't do you any good to block your guy, because there's nothing on the play.
Well, I'll do one more minute on LSU. Strength of the team, obviously, is the defense. Linebackers right now, Jones, Penn, Baskerville. A lot of people think Harold Perkins is going to play a lot for this team this year. Okay.
There's no debate.
Okay. The defensive back transfers, the big one has been Kobe Richardson at this point, the kid from McMaine, from McNeese, who, again, I think Brian said he put on 20 pounds.
Yeah, he was 165 pounds.
How do you like the secondary? That's the question. Are they SEC caliber?
The safeties are good. And this is back-to-back type of sessions he's brought up about Burns, about that he thinks that Major Burns is a really good player. And the transfer guys you got from Arkansas have become the leaders and really good players. I can't tell you about the cornerback position. Seven Banks, when he was healthy at Ohio State, he was really good. But again, can he stay healthy? You got a transfer from Oklahoma State who has started a ton of games. And so I would think he's got one spot. Kobe has been the surprise because, man, I go back a few years. I got asked to do a track meet, and he's running in it, 100, 200 meters. And somebody told me, yeah, Kobe, he's going to McNeese. He's going to run track for McMaine. Okay. I go talk to him, and he's like, yeah, I want to play football. And he thought maybe they'd put him at receiver. And he ends up being a cornerback. And that came from Frank's recommendation, Frank Wilson, to bring him on. He's been a surprise. And, man, even with the extra 20 pounds, he is still fast. And I like to see that track background, because I think, if you run track, one thing I can tell about you, you're a fast guy. You're really, really fast. And so it's the biggest question mark going into the season at a position.
Outside of offensive line.
I think it's even more.
Really? Okay.
I think you have a better idea of your offensive line than I think you do at corner.
Okay.
It was DBU because of the cornerback play.
Sure.
But then, Stingley Flott goes early to the NFL. Elias Ricks makes a business decision. He goes to Alabama. McLaughlin goes to Arkansas. You wiped out. All 4 guys gone. In one blink of the eye. Pow. The transfer portal really helped there.
Yes.
How quickly that can come together, because I do know one thing about secondary. It's about communication. Okay, when they start all these crossing patterns that we saw LSU have a lot of trouble with guarding, it's about, hey, you're supposed to get that guy on this play, and if it crosses, you got this guy. How quickly that all comes together.
I agree. Tulane, Willie Fritz just said he's very pleased with his scrimmage. He thinks the team is disciplined. He thinks the offensive line is playing much better. His receiving corps is deep. Obviously experienced at quarterback, deep at running back. Your thoughts on the Wave?
One thing I saw last year, they got beat up front. And you can say, again, we got a couple freshmen, a couple sophomores that can fill the shoes of Patrick Johnson and Cameron Sample, and guess what? Those 2 guys are playing in the NFL for a reason, okay? It's difficult. When you're at Tulane and have 2 of them at the same time, they affected the quarterback. Right. And you didn't have that last year. A lot of times you had quarterbacks just sitting there. They had a lot of time to throw. You can't cover forever. Oh, look how secondary's bad. No, you got no push up front. That, to me, is still the key. Defensive line play, how much pressure you can get on the quarterback to affect it. The offensive line play last year I thought was lousy.
It was.
I thought was just absolutely lousy. They couldn't run the football when they needed to and have to. And you got your quarterback just besieged upon.
Plus the schedule was so hard.
And you were in some games and it slipped away. And I think now all of a sudden there it becomes a mental deal for you. Damn, we in this position again? We back in this same spot? You got to win some games like you lost.
Yes.
Because then I think you start questioning things. But you got the right quarterback. You got the right quarterback. You do have depth at receiver, but you should in this state with all the talent at
and
receiver.
Running back.
And running back you do also.
And again, the guys you got in the transfer portal look like they're really going to help you immediately.
But to me, this game is about having the quarterback, which they have.
Right.
Can you win up front? Offensive, defensive lines. Why is Cincinnati made to move the way they have? They're better up front, offensive, defensive line, and they had a quarterback. Desmond Ridder was really, really good.
Yes, he was.
And eventually, he's going to be the starter in Atlanta. I'm just telling you.
I agree with you.
I do stuff for the Titans radio network, and I can tell you, he's a thin-billed guy, and he's going to go down, and he's going to get hurt, and Ritter's going to start real quick in the NFL.
100%
but this is a critical year for Willie, and I think he knows it. To build some confidence, and you got to start out quick.
I think you said the right word, confidence. I agree with you 100%. Mike, thanks so much.
Thank you much.
Always appreciate you joining us.
Always my pleasure.
Of WWL Radio. Remember, thanks so much for tuning in. So many ways to catch our program now with rebroadcast. There's a QR code that's up. Click it on with your phone. You either go to my website or the WLAE-TV YouTube page, where you can check out the program at your leisure. You catch me on the radio 4 to 6 weekdays on 106.1 FM Nash Icon. You can listen live at ericasher.com. Also the Nash Icon website. Also the iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, our digital platforms. Our podcasts on the Anchor app or on all podcasting platforms. Just search Inside New Orleans Show with Eric Asher. Special thanks to our underwriters who make this show possible. Also to the WLE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Logan Graffia, Alex Chacon, and William Hill, our director. For Mike Detillier, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.